You're well aware what the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is, SNAP. I'm sure you're well aware of the 42 million people in this nation that rely on it, as well as 18 million children and 74,000 people in my district on the Central Coast of California who rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as food stamps. Now, in this budget, you find savings of over $220 billion over 10 years from that program specifically, correct?
We do have savings of that magnitude.
Okay. And 3 months ago, you're aware that the Farm Bill was passed, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. And in that process of getting to a Farm Bill, and I would call it a bipartisan Farm Bill, Democrats and Republicans voted on it, in which they rejected the mandatory work requirements that are being imposed in this proposal, this budget right now, correct?
You're right that there was not a work requirement in the Farm Bill that the President signed.
Even though it was proposed initially on that Farm Bill, but then rejected in order to pass the Farm Bill, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And one of the reasons I can tell you, as being on the Ag Committee at that time, one of the reasons why that proposal failed was because there was absolutely no evidence that those proposals would work. It was based on ideology, not policy. It was based on emotion, not evidence. And as a former prosecutor, I knew early on that I couldn't just stand up in court and say someone's guilty and sit back down. I had to prove my case. That proposal couldn't be proved, therefore it was rejected by Democrats and Republicans. That's how we were able to get to a Farm Bill. What evidence do you have that this proposal will work?
Well, we just would look at the history of the 1990s and what we've seen since then, which is that when work requirements were put in TANF, that it reduced caseloads, many people went back to work, and people who were exiting welfare were able to achieve much higher levels of income with the incentive to go back to work.
Okay, but you wouldn't look at the evidence. You don't have any pilot programs or anything of that nature that it would actually work right now, correct?
Again, we would look at the
okay, reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time, thank you. And part of the proposal, part of these savings that you talk about, is a proposal to spend $5.8 billion to serve food stamp participants with a Blue Apron-style food box delivery service in lieu of cash benefits for low-income families, correct?
Not in lieu of all cash benefits. We will continue to provide cash benefits in addition to providing the harvest box, which you mentioned.
Okay, great. And this harvest box, it was already, well, I wouldn't say proposed, it was floated out there during the buildup of the 2018 Farm Bill, and it was widely rejected by food assistance experts, correct?
Not all good ideas, time has come, and we continue to put forward a reform that we think is one that we're excited about. It was proposed last year's budget. It was not enacted in the Farm Bill, and we continue to see the value in it. Because
there were such issues like distribution. Do you know whether or not this food box would be distributed door to door?
Those are the kinds of questions that we think that the policy process and working with Congress would answer. But we've had a lot of feedback from working with the private sector that would be interested in engaging with us on this, and so we think it has a lot of merit.
And what would happen when people aren't home, Mr. Vought? What would happen in the time of natural disasters? Would it be distributed through a distribution center? Do you know any of these details?
We're not prepared to offer a lot of details in the proposal, but other than that, to say that we think
that's fine. Reclaiming my time. Thank you. Do you know what would be in this food box? Yes or no, please.
We've been working with the United States Department of Agriculture to ensure that a balanced diet of all the staples.
Let me tell you what was in the last food box that was proposed. Juice, cereals, pasta, peanut butter, canned fruits and vegetables, shelf-stable milk, oh, and I forgot, canned meat. Now, I haven't ate today, at all today, and it's lunchtime, but I'm not hungry right now after reading that. Are you hungry?
Again, this was not meant to replace the benefits that are currently receiving. There will still be cash benefits, and I would just say, these are the types of details that we would actually hope that we can work with you on. It's not a static proposal. We think that the basic concept is something that works in the private sector for people who are not on food stamps. Let me just give you an example from the standpoint of a daughter who relies on medicine that comes at a certain time. If we're not home, the impact on us is that it goes back to FedEx, and we are out of pocket substantial amount of dollars because we weren't home. So we're fully confident that individuals are responsible enough, whether they are on food stamps or not, to be able to work with their federal government or whoever the contractor is to be able to deliver and have them at home to be able to receive the food that's necessary. And we're willing to work with you to make sure that what people actually would receive is something that they would be excited about. It certainly is something with regard to the private sector options that are out there.
Mr. Vought, thank you very much. Appreciate it and look forward to working with you. Yield back my time.